Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're cracking open the Communication Toolkit. Whether you're leading a team, closing a deal, or, hey, even just trying to win an argument, mastering your message is one of the most critical skills you can possibly have.
Okay, so let's dive right in with this powerful idea from George Bernard Shaw. You know how it is, we send an email, we give a presentation, we have a chat, and we walk away thinking we've been understood. But here's the kicker. Most of the time, we're just operating under an illusion.
And that illusion, it's not just a small misunderstanding. It is incredibly costly. Research from the Project Management Institute shows that ineffective communication is a factor in over half. That's more than half of all failed projects. That's just a staggering number. So many brilliant ideas fall apart, not because they were bad, but because they were communicated poorly.
So, if this is causing more than half of projects to fail, you gotta ask, why does this illusion happen so often? What's really going on under the hood when we try to get an idea from our brain into someone else's? To figure that out, we need to look at the basic mechanics.
Let's start by thinking about communication not as some kind of fuzzy art form, but more like a machine. Yeah, a machine, with specific parts that all have to work just right for the message to arrive intact.
At its heart, communication is a system. You can think of it as this constant loop that's always running during any interaction, telling, listening, and trying to get on the same page. The whole goal is really simple. Create a shared reality. Get to that common understanding. So this machine, it's got 6 basic parts. It all starts with a sender. But the first place things can go wrong is right here at step 2, encoding. I mean, how do you even turn a thought into the right words or the right image? Then that message has to travel through a channel and get decoded by the receiver. Every single one of these steps is a potential pitfall, a place where the original idea can get twisted. And let's be honest, that journey is almost never perfect.
So what's throwing a wrench in the works? Well, the entire process is vulnerable to disruption from something communication experts have a great name for: noise.
And here's the thing you absolutely have to get. Noise isn't just, a loud room. Sure, physical noise, like a bad cell connection, that's obvious. But what about the other kinds, like psychological noise? Maybe you're stressed about a deadline and you just can't focus on what someone is saying. Or semantic noise, right? When someone drops a bunch of jargon that you don't understand. And get this, even physiological noise, like being hungry or tired, can totally change how a message is sent and how it's received. Okay, so if this machine is always breaking down because of all this noise, what do we do? How do we fix it? Well, maybe we need to reframe how we think about it. Instead of a fragile machine, let's start thinking about communication as a toolkit. A set of 5 essential tools that you can actually learn to use with skill and precision.
And here they are. These are the 5 fundamental tools we're all using every single day, most of the time without even thinking about it. You've got verbal, nonverbal, written, visual, and yep, the one we almost always forget: listening.
All right, tool number 1, verbal communication. This is the raw power of the spoken word. Just think about Winston Churchill rallying an entire nation, telling them they would fight on the beaches. Or Martin Luther King Jr. pushing his prepared notes aside to tell the world about his dream. When you use them right, spoken words can literally change the course of history.
Now, for our second tool, and honestly, this one is a total game changer: nonverbal communication. Researchers estimate that our body language, our posture, our facial expressions, that stuff accounts for up to 55% of a message's impact. And for the ultimate proof, you don't have to look any further than the very first televised presidential debate.
It's fascinating. People who just heard the debate on the radio, they were convinced Richard Nixon had won, based on his arguments. But the millions watching on TV saw a completely different story. They saw a pale, sweating Nixon next to a calm, confident John F. Kennedy. Kennedy's relaxed posture and direct eye contact screamed leader, far more powerfully than his words alone. It proved that what our bodies are saying can completely override what our mouths are saying.
The third tool is written communication, and you can't talk about this without mentioning Amazon's Jeff Bezos. He famously banned PowerPoint presentations in favor of 6-page narrative memos. But why? Because the very act of writing a clear, structured narrative forces you to think more clearly. It's a tool for precision and permanence.
Our fourth tool, visual communication, can make complex information totally impossible to ignore. During the Crimean War, Florence Nightingale wasn't just a nurse. She was a brilliant data storyteller. Her iconic rose diagrams visually proved that more soldiers were dying from preventable diseases in unsanitary hospitals than from their wounds in battle. This visual evidence was so compelling it forced the British government to reform military healthcare, saving countless lives.
And that brings us to the final tool in our kit. It's the one we think we use the most, but actually practice the least. And you could argue it's the most powerful one of them all.
What you're looking at here is a pretty startling statistic. Studies show that the average person, that's you, that's me, only remembers between 25 and 50% of what they hear. That means in most verbal communication, at least half of it is lost, almost immediately.
And that is why listening is the master tool. It's not a passive activity. It's not just waiting for your turn to talk. No, true active listening is a skill. It is the master key that unlocks the value in all the other tools. And frankly, it's where most of us have the greatest opportunity to improve.
Let's look at a modern example. When Sarah Blakely founded Spanx, she had no industry experience and just $5,000 in savings. But she had a secret weapon that all the big legacy brands had completely forgotten how to use.
She didn't conduct these sterile, formal focus groups. Instead, she went to department stores and just listened. She heard the unfiltered frustrations and desires of real women, discovering needs the multi-billion-dollar fashion industry had completely overlooked. By truly listening, she built a billion-dollar company based on what others had failed to hear.
So you see, true mastery isn't about being great at just one of these things. It's about knowing how to orchestrate all 5 of them together to create a clear, compelling, and unforgettable message. Each tool has its own superpower, right? Verbal is for building connection and getting that immediate feedback. Nonverbal is for conveying authentic emotion. Written is for precision and creating a permanent record. Visual is for making complex data easy to digest. And listening? Well, listening is for building the trust that makes all the other forms of communication even possible. Knowing which tool to pull out of the bag and when, that's the key.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. Your words are just one tool. And since effective communication is a conscious act, not an accident, the real question is, what is the rest of your toolkit saying?